Hi, I'm George, and I was diagnosed with dementia just over 10 years ago. I have Alzheimer's and vascular dementia, and I think because I keep myself very busy, my brain is deteriorating quite slowly. I think most people will know that certain things are becoming more difficult at some stage in their life if they are on the verge of developing dementia. For example, in my case, I was finding conversations difficult because I couldn't keep up with what the other people were saying, and I couldn't find my words quick enough. I found I could not remember any names. This was before I stopped working. So you might be finding that you're losing things, although you might not be losing them. You just can't remember where they are. Or you might get frustrated more easily with something that you've always found very simple. Might even be just tying your shoelaces, for example, or doing up those buttons at the end of a duvet cover, which is everybody's nightmare. And then you'll be aware of things just not going right. So you might go along to your GP and say, I'm a bit anxious about keeping up at work or about losing things. And my wife keeps telling me I'm losing my temper more often. Dementia affects any part of your brain. And depending on which part of your brain is affected, a different part of your body will malfunction. So, why get a diagnosis? I think for most people, find it troublesome, but also a relief, because it explains why they've been having the symptoms that they have. The brain disease underlying most dementias starts in your brain before the symptoms become noticeable. If you're one of the unlucky ones, you will start to notice symptoms at some stage, probably after 50, but it could be after 70, it could be after 80. Whenever you get a diagnosis, it is just there on that day. Before you didn't have dementia, now you do. Well, that's not true. You had dementia. You simply are told what it is, and that can be both devastating and comforting. Devastating because too many people think that their life is over. They're frightened by what might happen. They imagine all the worst things that could possibly happen to them in the future in terms of not being able to look after themselves. And I suppose I'm one of the people who doesn't tend to think about that because my dementia is developing very slowly. I think knowing the reasons for the difficulties you are having is comforting because it's always better to know than not to know. If you are having brain fog and you're losing things and you get really annoyed because your wife put something back in the kitchen in the wrong cupboard and you don't know where things are, at least if you know why that's happening, you can start to plan strategies for how to cope with that. As you learn about the effects of the brain disease on your day-to-day life, you can learn to adopt strategies, or some of us call them sort of tips and tricks, to live better, to live more easily. It has been known for some people to take the doors off their cupboards or to put glass doors on so they can see what's in the cupboard. So if they can't remember where things are stored, they can see it. There's another reason why people should get diagnosed if they can. There are some peer support groups around. People with dementia may be run by people with dementia, for people with dementia, sometimes with caregivers present, sometimes not. But an important thing is that you can talk to people in your situation who understand dementia, who get it, and you can share all sorts of things and find out everything you possibly want to know about dementia. The best form of support is peer group support, talking to people, sharing things with people, listening to them who have dementia, because you get a wonderful sense of camaraderie and just supporting each other. And without that, you'll be very lonely, or you could be. Having dementia is about continuing to live as well as you can and as well as you choose, doing whatever gives you pleasure. I can't emphasize enough, that is what matters. Forget the label dementia, just do what you enjoy doing. There are different forms of post-diagnosis support around the country. It's very much postcode lottery. In some areas there is wonderful support, in other areas there is very little. In Shropshire and Telford, we are introducing, as part of the new model for dementia, what we're calling link workers, who are currently, at least, employed by the Alzheimer Society and have been in this county for some time. But they are people who you would be referred to. You don't have to take it up, but you would be referred to when you're diagnosed or soon after. And they, in a sense, know the lie of the land. They know what's going on around the place. They know a lot about dementia. They know where you can go for support, like helplines and charities. And for that matter, how to get back in touch with the memory service or dementia service itself. And they can provide support, guidance. You can talk about things with them. And they should be there as long as you need them and as infrequently as you need them. So another part of the model is an Admiral Nurse service. Contrary to what their name suggests, Admiral Nurses have nothing to do with insurance and they don't sail. They are nurses who are specialised in dementia care. They are trained by Dementia UK, which is a growing charity, and they are employed generally locally by local health systems. They deal with people who are in complex situations where they're having trouble, often looking after the care support group around the person. Might be family, it might be neighbours, might be friends. They'll deal with outside agencies, which are often very difficult for an individual who doesn't know the system. And they just understand the psychology, the neurology, and the sort of social elements of what dementia can do to a person and a family. They are fantastic. One of the things that I strongly promote is the idea of having a good life living with dementia. I'm not here to pretend that having dementia is a good thing, because it's not. But it's simply a label for a disease that you have. It does not stop you and must not stop you from doing what you enjoy doing in your life, either what you're used to doing all the time or learning new things. One of the things about brain disease is that your brain can continue to make neural connections. Some may die, but you can make new ones. Therefore, the more you use your brain for all sorts of things, but in particular, arts, music, and conversation, those are really important because they make huge ranges of connections around your brain and help to rewire your brain. So have a good life. Just do what makes you smile when you get up in the morning. Oh, looking forward to going on a walk or going and seeing somewhere you remember. I mean, in my case, it's painting because I learned to paint 4 years ago during COVID. I was coached, I suppose, by a lady who has a more advanced dementia than me, who lives in Wales, who is a wonderful artist. And she's helped a lot of people to start painting, and I just took to it and I enjoy it. And that really does give me huge satisfaction, but also it enables me to just focus on one thing, shut out all the other rubbish going on in my head and around me, and just have that, what is trendily called mindfulness, where, I mean, you know, I've done mindful training, and I personally cannot lie down on the floor and think about each part of my body from the toenail upwards for half an hour. But I can paint for 2 hours and not realise 2 hours has gone by, and really get satisfaction out of knowing that, my God, everybody said I couldn't paint when I was young. Oh, well, I can actually. If you've got any doubts at all about your hearing, do get it checked by an audiologist through the NHS. They may not realise it, but as your hearing deteriorates, you find it harder to hear and decode what's being said in conversations, especially if there are several people. And If you can't decode what's being said to you, you can't possibly respond to it and have a conversation. So the classic situation is for someone with dementia, can't really hear very well, or maybe has even turned their hearing aids off because of the clatter going on, sitting in a pub with a group of people. They're sitting at the end of the table, they can see everybody, but they're not taking part in the conversation. Get your hearing checked, get hearing aids, and it'll help you a great deal. I've come across quite a lot of people recently diagnosed who openly say they're ashamed of having dementia. And I find this hard to understand. I can understand people being frightened of it, but ashamed, well, you shouldn't be, should you? Just like cancer or arthritis or diabetes. Perhaps one of the problems is that you think that other people will think you're stupid or thick or whatever because you can't take part in the conversations, or because you find it difficult to do your shoelaces up or shirt buttons, whatever. And I can understand people being, at least for a while, put off by that. So best thing I can say is, and it goes back to the peer groups, talk to other people with dementia and you'll realise that there are other people feeling the same. But when you say it to each other, you realise there's no reason for it and you can laugh it off. But it takes that confidence, that self-confidence that you'll get from hearing other people saying things similar to you, that you think, okay, I'm going to go out and be public about it. You don't have to go and tell people you've got dementia, but you can if you want. It's really nothing to be ashamed of. It is just a disease. And I urge you to get on with your lives. Do what you can and what you enjoy doing. I suppose my overall message to people who might have dementia or people who do have dementia is it is not the end of your life. It is perhaps the beginning of a new chapter. It is an opportunity that a lot of people take to learn to do new things, to learn to go to places that they haven't been to before, but they thought about. Get on and do it. Just enjoy your life as much as you can. Concentrate on what gives you pleasure. It's nothing to be ashamed of. It is simply a disease which you can live with well for quite a long time.